After a night of passion, Petra and James wake up together early in the morning. Petra rushes to class, but James decides to stay in bed a little longer. This causes him to oversleep, and by the time he wakes up again, he is already late. He runs through the city as fast as he can until he arrives at his philosophy class, where the professor, Mr. Zimmett, initially considers not letting him in, but finally opens the door. Today is the last day of class, and Mr. Zimmett wants the students to tell him their favorite mental exercise they have analyzed. Chips mentions the infinite monkey theorem, which says that if you give a monkey a typewriter and an infinite amount of time, it will eventually write all of Hamlet. Jack mentions the trolley problem, which says you have a lever to choose whether a train will kill one person or four. Just for fun, they swap that riddle for the fat man problem, where you have the option of pushing an obese man onto the tracks to stop the train. Georgina likes the paradox of happiness in ignorance. In this one, someone purposely hangs from the tallest tower in the city to check if their friends will help them. However, their friends are afraid that if they try to lift him up, they themselves might be dragged down, so they back away. The person falls and lives, but now wonders if it is truly better to know that his friends would not save him or if ignorance is bliss. Zimmett decides they will do one last mental exercise to end the school year. The class must assume there is an imminent atomic apocalypse and imagine a bunker that will give them shelter for a year. Zimmett begins to narrate the scene so that everyone uses their imagination, visualizing an area surrounded by nuclear explosions. As Zimmett takes them through an imaginary tour of the bunker, he points out the problem. There are only supplies for 10 people. The class has 20 students, so they have to decide which of them to let in and who stays out. Additionally, there is not much time to decide before the atomic radiation reaches them. Georgina refuses to participate because she believes it is like discussing eugenics. But when Zimmett describes how gruesome and painful it is to die under radiation, she agrees to play. Petra also refuses to participate and even stands up to leave, knowing that she has always had perfect grades and Zimmett cannot hurt her by lowering them a bit. However, Zimmett threatens to lower James's grades instead, which would make him fail the class, and Petra has no choice but to stay. Then, Zimmett hands out cards containing the random profession each student will have in the exercise. He opens the box for James first, and after he takes a card, Zimmett goes to the desk to cough before handing a card to Petra. Then he coughs again against the desk before giving cards to everyone else. Now the students can look at the professions they obtained. All these jobs vary in themes, from harpist and wine auctioneer to astronaut and chemist. Toby reveals he is a published poet, but he barely finishes speaking before Zimmett shoots him, revealing that he took the gun from the bunker. Zimmett explains that this is more humane than letting him die from radiation, since a poet is not useful when humanity must be rebuilt anyway. Zimmett also explains that he is part of the exercise, but his profession is hidden, so he must be seen as a wild card. Subsequently, each student defends their right to enter the bunker and they proceed to vote. The first 9 choices are those they consider useful for survival. Petra, the structural engineer, James, the farmer, Georgina, the orthopedic surgeon, Chips, the carpenter, Jack, the chemist, Bonnie, the soldier, Annie, the electrician, Poppy, the psychotherapist, and Omo Seed, the senator. There are also 9 who are quickly eliminated for not being useful: Vivian, the zoologist, Beatrice, the fashion designer, Parker, the ice cream man, Kavi, the real estate agent, Russell, the harpist, Plum, the hedge fund manager, Nelson, the housekeeper, Mitzi, the wine auctioneer, and Yoshiko, the astronaut. The last spot must be chosen between Zimmett and Utami, the opera singer. Petra thinks a wild card is a risk, but Jack points out that an opera singer is a luxury and prefers to take a chance on Zimmett, who may have a useful secret. Zimmett wins, and now that the groups are complete, they take 5 minutes to say goodbye, so they move the desks to simulate that they are having their last words. Suddenly, they hear gunshots and discover that Zimmett has killed everyone who did not get a spot, saying again that it was the most humane thing to do. The group is shocked, and Petra whispers to James that she no longer wants Zimmett in the bunker. James works out a plan and asks everyone to collect some plants before entering the bunker, stating that they are saving them to replant when they come out. While everyone is separated for the collection, James approaches each of them in turn and tells them his plan. When the time comes, the group enters the bunker and deactivates the external keypad before closing the door while Zimmit stays outside. Then they take a look at the different rooms. There is an artificial garden, a daybed, a gym, books, and other things supposedly to avoid depression. At night, while everyone is sleeping on the cots, James meets Petra in the large bed and tells her he can get through anything with her. Once James falls asleep, Petra goes to Zimmit and finds him slowly burning under the radiation. Suddenly, Zimmit holds up a piece of paper saying that only he has the exit code. Petra immediately calls the group and they begin to argue about what to do, not knowing whether to believe Zimmit or not. In the end, they decide to ignore him and begin living the year in the bunker. It is incredibly boring, and they can barely keep themselves occupied with mundane tasks. Every day, Petra checks Zimmit's body, which is slowly rotting, and occasionally a dog comes to nibble on it. Once the year passes, the group prepares to leave, only to discover that Zimmit was right. The lock asks for an exit code. The students proceed to use different methods to try to force the door without success. They try to survive a few more days with the few supplies they have left, but they soon run out, so they decide to end their own lives to have a more humane ending. In class, Zimmit announces that they failed the experiment and reveals his profession as a bunker builder. In fact, he was the one who built that particular bunker and, therefore, the only one who has the code. The students want to try again, and this time they imagine a new location, choosing Mount Bromo. Once again, Zimmit runs to get a gun, which Petra notices. It is then revealed that the cards hide a second characteristic that can influence the votes. James's characteristic is being gay, but he is still accepted for his knowledge of agriculture, although with fewer votes. Georgina, the surgeon, was exposed to the Ebola virus, so this time she is left out. Plum, the hedge fund manager, always travels with a bag of gold, so she is accepted. Chips, the carpenter, is infertile, but is also accepted again due to his skills. Petra, the structural engineer, is also an electrical engineer, so she is saved. Andy, the electrician, reveals that he has a very rare disease that can kill him at any time, so he is rejected. Poppy, the psychotherapist, cannot have children, so she is left out. Vivian, the zoologist, reveals that she supports PETA, so she is left out again. Jack, the chemist, won the genetic lottery, which means he will live a long and healthy life, so he is accepted again. Kavi, the real estate agent, is also a midwife, and since they have lost Georgina as a doctor, he stays this time. Parker, the ice cream man, does not have an extra characteristic, which means someone else must have it, and he is left out. Utami, the opera singer, has 2. She can speak 7 languages, but she will develop a tumor in her throat in 3 years that will not let her speak anymore, so she is left out. Mitzi, the wine auctioneer, has an IQ of 200, but she is still left out again. Beatrice, the fashion designer, created a popular women's clothing brand from bamboo, but she is also left out again, and the same happens to Russell, the harpist who is autistic. Omo Side, the senator, will be the first female Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, therefore she is saved again. Bonnie, the soldier, has an eidetic memory and is saved once more. Nelson, the housekeeper, is an exceptionally kind person, which at first does not help him, but he ends up staying when Petra says they need more men, and Omoside argues that they need more hard-working and strong middle-class workers. When Toby, the poet, is about to mention his characteristic, Zimmit shoots him again, saying that this place is for him because the group still does not know the code. Then, Zimmit gives the keys to a truck to Georgina, and the people who stayed outside immediately try to flee to save themselves. Unfortunately, the vehicle is hit by the explosion. The chosen ones also begin to run to reach the bunker just in time, and the boring daily life begins again. Later in the night, Petra wakes up and sees that James is not in his bed, so she goes to look for him only to find him having an intimate encounter with Jack, who turns out to be gay in real life. Petra feels hurt and rushes to tell the rest of the group what she saw. Now they decide it is time to discuss how they will come together to procreate. Since Chips is infertile, he does not need to help, while Jack and James refuse to participate because they cannot even pretend with a woman for the sake of the babies. Bonnie and Kavi are paired up, as are Almocide and Nelson. As revenge for her boyfriend, Petra agrees to do it with Zimmet, ignoring James when he says he still loves her. While the explosions outside devastate the planet, the three couples have intimate encounters at the same time. After 10 weeks without pregnancies, Zimmet points out that they must switch partners, saying that the girls should have multiple partners. Bonnie refuses, saying that they are taking logic too far to solve things and that it should not override their consent. Zimmet walks away only to return with a gun in hand, threatening everyone except Bonnie to leave the room. The group runs out, but Jack manages to hide behind a corner, and once Zimmet is distracted, Jack attacks him and makes him drop the gun. Bonnie picks it up quickly and aims the gun at Zimmet, but the guys continue fighting until Zimmet overpowers Jack. However, Jack retaliates by stabbing Zimmet in the ear with a pen. Devastated, Zimmet goes to the front door and enters the code to open it, dragging everyone with him. The class has failed the exercise again. James is more suspicious now and questions Zimmet's motives for the exercise, mentioning the strange cough he had when he assigned the roles to him and Petra and pointing out that Zimmet has not coughed since. Suddenly, James goes to the desk and grabs the box, running out of Zimmet's reach to open it and discover the secret. It turns out that the box has hidden compartments, and James and Petra's cards have been tampered with, meaning they would always get the same results: gay farmer and double engineer. James wants to know why Zimmet hates him in particular, so Zimmet brings up Plato's allegory of the cave. In this allegory, a man lives his whole life chained to a wall and only sees shadows and hears echoes, assuming that is what reality looks and sounds like. One day, the man is unchained and discovers that the shadows are caused by bodies and the echoes are caused by voices, discovering that the whole idea of what was real was just an illusion. Zimmet says this allegory is something like James, claiming the exercise is meant to confront James about how his privilege has poorly prepared him for the real world, but James does not believe him. Zimmet could have turned him into something useless like a florist so that he could be voted out from the beginning, but a gay farmer means Zimmet wanted to prolong his suffering on purpose. At that moment, Petra interrupts the discussion and insists that the exercise be done a third time, this time with James as a florist. Now their imaginations take them to an island, and the apocalypse has not yet occurred. Zimmet goes to the bunker to look for a weapon as usual and hears a noise, but pays no attention to it. When he returns outside, Petra joins him and offers him a hug, saying she knows it has been hard for him. Subsequently, Petra asks everyone to trust her to choose who enters the bunker because she has a plan. When everyone agrees, Petra makes her choices and explains her reasoning. Mitzi is saved because a genius wine auctioneer would be smart enough to bring red and white wine on a trip, ensuring everyone has a good time. Beatrice is saved because dressing well increases self-esteem, which promotes productivity and could save civilization. Toby's second skill turns out to be poker champion, so he is saved because he brought cards with him and will provide entertainment. Russell is also saved because many people consider autism a gift. Georgina was only exposed to Ebola, but they have no proof that she has it, so Petra lets her in while promising to pray for her. Utami, the opera singer, may go mute in 3 years, but now everyone could fall asleep to her singing, so she is also saved. Jack is accepted because of his perfect genes, but he is upset because he will be without a partner due to his orientation. At that moment, Parker comes out of the closet, so he is also saved. With only 2 spots remaining, Petra chooses James. While the chosen ones enter the bunker, in the classroom everyone sits together as a team. Zimmet has been complaining the whole time, and with every choice, he lowers Petra's grade until he makes her fail. But seeing the useless people enter the bunker makes him lose his temper and he looks for his gun. However, he does not find it. It turns out Petra stole it when she hugged him earlier. She gives it back to him, only to reveal that it is not loaded. Petra hands Zimmet 2 bullets, saying she does not want him to suffer like last time. But at that moment, James threatens Zimmet with a rifle. It turns out he had been the noise in the bunker. Desperate to survive, Zimmet says that nobody knows the exit code except him. But Bonnie used her perfect memory to memorize it during the last round. Sensing defeat, Zimmet leaves. Then, Petra wants to give the last spot to Bonnie, but since she refuses, Chips takes the place. James is no longer gay in this iteration of the exercise and begs Petra to go with them, but she refuses, saying she will take the boat and try to get out of the radiation zone, only for Chips to reveal that he has the keys to the boat. Acting fast, Chips pushes Petra inside, swapping places with her before the door closes. While the rest of the group runs to the boat to leave the island, Petra continues to narrate the mental exercise, explaining that despite the horrible circumstances, they somehow had fun during the year in the bunker because they had cards, wine, Shakespeare plays, and original poems. James tells Petra how much he loves her, but she hesitates to respond with the same phrase. When the machines break down in the bunker, they use the pieces to make a harp, and Russell plays it while Utami sings to make their nights magical. Once the year passes, the group leaves the bunker only to discover that the bombs never fell. Zimmit narrates that they will die, since none of them have the technical skills to survive on an island, but Petra responds that their lives will be short, but at least they will be well and happy. They will also be ready to welcome death when it arrives. Suddenly, a rocket lands on the beach, and James prepares to detonate it, but at that moment, Zimmit appears and fires to stop him. It turns out he had found a cave and went deep enough to avoid the radiation. For the last year, he has been surviving on what he could find there. Zimmit cannot allow them to commit such an unreasonable act as ending the human race and threatens to shoot James with his last bullet, but the rest of the survivors move one by one to stand in front of him as a shield. They take the opportunity to press the detonation button, and the bomb blows up the entire island. Back in class, Zimmit is embarrassed by the last exercise, but Chips quickly interrupts to offer his own version as well. He says the boat managed to go far enough to avoid the explosion, and he became the only man with 6 women all to himself. The group wonders what happened to the other 3 men, and Chips says Kavi drowned, Nelson had a barracuda attack, and Andy had an encounter with a palm tree. Being infertile does not mean that the probability of procreation is 0, so in this ending, Chips sleeps with a different girl every day. Zimmit finally ends the class, and all the students leave except Petra, who accuses Zimmit of trying to use the exercise to punish James. It turns out that Zimmit has been having an affair with Petra, and he believes James is inferior to her. Petra explains that intelligence is not the only thing that matters, and that she loves James, so he should not be punished for something he does not know anyway. Petra gives Zimmit one last kiss and leaves. Subsequently, Zimmit is alone at school and begins to run many variations of what happens if he goes to his office. Sometimes he simply eats, but other times he finds his gun and a gunshot can be heard in the building.